Okay, Daf Chav Dalid Amud Aleph. I'll be like 12, 15 lines from the bottom. Tashma. So we have Gemara. What? The line starts Amar Hashtag. Gemara had a question. Who is being warned? The ox or the owner? Okay, Rabbi tries to bring a raya. It says like this: Ein asher nase muad ad she'idu boy. The shur, you following? The shur doesn't become a muad ad she'idu boy until they testify it in it. Bifnei bailin, in front of the owners, bifnei bezdin, and in front of bezdin. Like Rashi says, "V'huad b'va'olav ein edus ela bebezdin." There's the pasuk "V'huad b'bayil." If the word the owner, and where is edus? Huad edus. Where is edus? Happy to bezdin. So it has to be b'fnei abailin, b'fnei bezdin. Hidu b'fnei bezdin, shalif b'fnei bailin. If they warned in front of Bezdin and Bailim weren't there, or Bifnei Bailim Shleim de Bezdin or in front of the Bailim and not in front of Bezdin, Ein no inase muad. The ox doesn't become a muad. Achi idu boy Bifnei Bezdin or Bifnei Bailim. Okay, that's the rule. It has to be in front of the owners and in front of Bezdin. Now that we're talking about in front of Bezdin, Hastis edus, yeah? It's testimony in front of Bezdin, right? That leads to the second part. It's in front of Bezdin. Can design that there'll be Edom Zayim. So what happens if Heidu Shnayim Barishayna, 2 witnesses came and warned that your ox scored? How much do you have to pay? Chatzi Nezer. First time. Yeah, you listening? You look like you were learning your glasses. Shnayim Bishliya. There was another two different witnesses came for the second time. How much Tichayiv? Shnayim Bishlishis. And then the next 2 come for the third one. Now these last 2 are Mechayiv, the owner to pay. That's like Shalom, because they're the third one. Harek or whatever. Harei kan sholish edus. So you have 3 edus. So each one is a separate edus. And if one of them is pasul edus, the other ones are still fine. Pay for the first time, for the second time. Not a problem. But now he says like this: edus achas lahazon. They're considered one acha, one edus, one group, to be considered Edom Zayim. In order to be chayiv, midin Edom Zayim, they're all 3, one group. And either all of them are going to become Edom Zayim, then you can give them the punishment of Edom Zayim. And if not, you can't. Practically, what does that mean? It's like this. Nimtzeis kash rishoyno zememes. It ends up, you find out that the first group, for the first negicha, was Edom Zayim. Now, normally, what's the din of Edom Zayim? Kashazam lasas love. What do you want them to do? So, technically, you would say these 2 first Edom have to pay Chatzinezeh for they testify that your ox scored and your chayav Chatzinezeh. Turns out they're Edom Zayim, they're liars. So now they have to pay what they wanted to make you pay. What did they want? The one that they wanted to make pay. Your ox. 2 people come and testify that your ox scored his ox. Chayav to pay. Then we find out that they're Edom Zayim. So what do we punish them? Whatever they wanted to do to you, they have to do to you. What did they want to do? Make you pay half. So now they have to pay you half. So, but here the din is Harei kan shtei edus. You still have 2 edus. In other words, just because they became puzzle doesn't cancel out the other two. He still has to pay for the second and third nekicha. But who potter? He doesn't have to pay for this one, right? He's also potter in the third one. He no longer has to pay nezek shalom. He only pays. See, that's because it turns out it's not a muad. The haint to it, but the Eidim Zayim are also potter. They don't have to pay. But only one group so far became Eidim Zayim. That group is potter. They don't have to pay for. They wanted to make him a muad, so to say. So now they have to pay for the third nezek shalom. They don't have to pay. Nimtzis kas shniyos ememes. We move along in the story, and the second group becomes Eidim Zayim. Weiter, harei kan edus achas. It's considered its own testimony. The who potter, the owner's potter, they pturim, and they're also potter. We don't make them pay for the Eidim, for the nezek shalom. What happens if the last group becomes Eidim Zayim? So now you got all 6 of them who were making this shur, a muad. All of them are Eidim Zayim. Kulam chayavim, so they all have to pay the chatzi nezek extra of the third gory. And the extra. In other words, they have to pay for the chatzi nezek that they were their own testimony. So the first two who said that your ox didn't gore, they have to pay for kasha zoma lasais lachim. What do they want to do for you? Make you pay chatzi nezek. They have to pay for the chatzi nezek. But the fact that they were making your ox a muad and having to pay the third time full payment, not just half, that extra half they're not chayav. Okay? So each set of Eidim Zayim is responsible for the chatzi nezek that they testified about. Now what about the third one's second chatzi nezek? The third one, because it's 3, has to pay how much? Nezek shalom. You following or not? No, I'm not making it confusing. I'm trying to make it clear. Because the chatzi nezek that is extra is what matters to all 3 groups. The regular chatzi nezek doesn't matter to all groups, only matters to the last group. So you have here, you have 1 time goring, 2 times goring, and 3 times goring. What's the din? The first time you pay half, second time you pay half, and the third time you pay 2 halves. So the first group of Eidim is responsible for this half. The second group of Eidim Zayim is responsible for this half. The third group of Eidim Zayim is responsible for this half. Because they're each separate entities, right? What do you say? Sholish Eidius. You have 3 testimonies. They're each chayiv for their own. Now what about this last one? For this last one, all 3 are equally chayiv. And until, because in order for him to have to pay nezek shalom, you needed all 3 of them to testify. So they're 1 edus for this last half. So this last half is split amongst 3 edus. Yeah. So let's say each ox was worth $180. So this 90 goes to this 8. This 90 goes to this Avis. The third 90 goes to the third Avis. And now this $90 is split amongst all three. You add 30 here, 30 here. So each aid ends up paying how much? What? Each aid pays how much? Altogether, total money. How much is each aid? No math, okay. 90 plus 30 is 120. I'll take it out. 90 plus 30. No, 90 plus 30 is 120. Right? You do it the old-fashioned way. 0, 0. 9 plus 3 is 12. 120. But there's two aidim, so you split it in two. 120 divided by 2, 2 and 2 is 60, 0, 0, so each aid is 3. So 60 is right. And if you understand the logic, so for the first one, they're each separate aids. For the Nezek Shalom, the half of the Nezek Shalom, it's split by all three. Rashi says that clearly right here. We'll do the Rashi's after. Okay. Valzeh Nemar, 2 lines from the end of the page. Valzeh Nemar, and concerning this it says, V'asisem loy kasher zoma. You do to him like he wanted to do. Okay, now listen to this. You're making the first Eidim responsible for the third. What do they have to do with the third? I came to testify on one that he Gore wants. Well, why are you mixing me with the third guy, making it as if we all came with a campaign to make him chayiv as a sholem michel kuman alei? He came himself. What do you want from us? Okay, so I'm testifying that he Gore once. Yeah, I saw it Gore once. Leave me alone. Now you want me to be chayiv? Because the third guy came and testified that he gored a third time? What do I have to do with that? You're making, by the Eidim Zoimim, it's kasher zoma masis. This is what you wanted to do. He turns around, I wanted to make him nezek shalom. I have nothing to do with his nezek shalom. I came to testify, katsi nezek, and leave me alone. So now comes the raya. That's a price. They're all straightforward. Now comes the raya. How does this mix in to whether it's Liyudi Tura or God? Something like this. Liyudi Tura, according to the opinion who holds that the warning is to warn the ox. Meaning, the ox has to gore 3 separate days. That's what matters. The owner doesn't have to find out 3 separate days. I'm not here to warn the owner. It's about the ox becoming a mu'ah. If he did it 3 separate days, it's a raya that he's a mu'ah. So then it makes sense. Why does it make sense? Because all 3 sets of Eidim can come on the same day. We all come together. We all testify together. So as a raya, you all know each other, or you're all in it together, and you all want to make him a mu'ah. It's possible, it makes sense to work out such a case if you're warning the ox, which means the warning, the goring is 3 separate days, and the warning is on the same day. If the warning's the same day, I understand how everyone's mixed in together. So that's good. But if it's to warn a person, which then means what? The warnings have to be 3 separate days. The first Eidim come 1 day, second Eidim a second day, third Eidim a third day. So then the taina is, what does the first Eidim have to do with the last ones? Why are you making them responsible for the Nezek Shalom? Libru Hanach Kamoi, let these first ones say, Anan? We have a Yadinon? Are we supposed to have known the Basar Shloisha Yoimi that after 3 days, Asu Hani, these other ones are going to come, Umiyadile, and testify that you're making me responsible for that? How does such a price make sense? Is a Chayra Araya? You're warning the ox. Because if you're warning the person, it doesn't make any sense how the first people should be responsible for Nezek Shalom. Alright. Amar Ravashi. So Ravashi says, Amriso l'shmaito kamei de Rav Kahana. I said this over in front of Rav Kahana. The Amar li, and he said to me like this. I hear you. It's a difficult answer for it. It's difficult how to work it out, perhaps, with the Yudi Gavra. But the Yudi Tura Minecha. And if they're coming to warn the ox, it does work out. The Leimru Hanach Basroi, let the last ones who are coming, the third group that came, and they can say, Anan Minaya Dinon. How did we know when we walked into Bezdin, the Chol, the Koi, they did know that all these people standing in front of the Bezdin, La'asudi Betura Kasu, are coming to testify about the same ox that we walked in to testify. We came to make him chayiv half. In other words, he's saying, just like if the warning was for the person, where they're coming in 3 separate days, the first guy can say, I know nothing about the later guys. He says, even if it's the same day, the third group can say, I know nothing. I'm here, I came to Bezdin, we're all in Bezdin at the same time. I have no idea that the other ones are doing the same thing that I'm doing, that I had in mind. That's a shalom, I only had in mind, Chatzin Ezek. So the question is, what were they trying to get him to pay? We're saying it's mitzvah zaynim. We already said they were found zaynim. It doesn't say in the price of days or not. We're saying that if it's to warn the person, it has to be in 3 days. So how can you hold the first group responsible? And Rav Kahana is saying that if you're warning the ox and they all came on the same day, which is the way you explained it, you still have a problem. Because the last group can say, I was not trying to make him chayiv nezek shalom. I only came for chatzin nezek. How am I supposed to know these other guys are there, which ends up making him pay nezek shalom? That's not what I had in mind. Kasher zomam, that's not what I wanted to do. So he answers, the kar meramzi rimuzi. They were winking. They were hinting to each other. And therefore, we know that that's what the last one said. So in other words, they came to bed, the first one was like, okay. Ravashi Omar. Ravashi gives a different answer. Kishabo Ritzulfim. He says, they came, again, we're doing that to the Yudi Tura, they came together. They didn't come one at a time. All 6 people walked into bed at the same time. Obviously, they're coming together. You can't say, I didn't know anything. You all walked into bed at the same time. One group got out of the car and all came together to bed.
How do we look at this guy?
The Yudi Tura. Again, they're bringing a raya that it's to warn the ox. Because if it's to warn the person, it for sure doesn't work out. Rav Kahana said even to warn the ox doesn't work out. So now we're giving explanations how it does work if it's to warn the ox.
Just like
Ravina Omar. Ravina says, B'makidin balashur. They know the owner of the ox. The ein makidin es ashur. They don't know which ox it is. So, what are they trying to do? What is their intention? To make him pay chatzin nezek? He doesn't have to pay chatzin nezek. Chatzin nezek you only pay me gufoy from the ox. If you don't know which ox it is, I can't make you pay chatzin nezek. So then what was their point in coming? To make him a muad. So he has to pay no matter what. I don't care if you know the ox or not. It's not how much the ox is worth. One of your oxen is a muad. Cause damage, you got to pay for the whole thing. So for sure, they're coming to make it a muad.
So he's working it out from parents.
Hold on a second. if they don't know which ox it is. How are they warning him? Usually you say, here, this ox is scored, be careful with your ox. More answers to Amri, they tell him, Tura Nagachna Islach Bebakra. You have a goring ox amongst your oxen. You can have to watch all your oxen. It's your responsibility. They want you to come and tell him. That's how they can do it. And therefore, if it's Liyudi Tura, it'll make sense. Liyudi Gavras. From this Bryce, he wants to bring a raya that it's Liyudi Tura. Warning the ox, and all three of them came at the same time, or the other answers that he gave, and therefore it's possible to hold them all responsible for Nezek Shalom. Liyudi Gavras. Got it? Good. To the Rashis. A little bit more than halfway down. There's three testimonies here. If one of them is nullified, it gets knocked out. The other two aren't. He's going to have to pay half nezek. If they weren't buckling, you have all three of them, it would be a mud. To become a muad, you need all three testimonies. They're all one testimony for the muad part. If the first group becomes the Zoymim, the owner only has to pay half on the third time. It doesn't have to pay Nezek Shalom. And they're also patur from that. They're also exempt from paying for the third one. Even though they would have caused him to have to pay Nezek Shalom, they're still patur. Yeah, maybe that's their intention, but they're still patur because Eidim Zayim are patur until all of them become Eidim Zayim. If all three groups become Eidim Zayim, then Mendel Kulan Chayav L'Shalim Achatzi Nezek Shaladas Kicha Shlishis. They all have to pay this second half Nezek of the third goring. Bein Kula, split between all of them. Satamus, the tam part of the third, Misham Shnei Eidim Achreinim. That goes just to the last two Eidim. Sheidu will let her testify about it. What? Not this first half. Only the second half. Just like this first half goes to them, this first half goes to them. This first half goes to them. You put it all in one thing, it's
same thing.
So the Gemara says, if you're going to tell me it's to warn the ox, that's why you need 3 days of warning. But the owner could be warned in 1 day. I can say that they all came in 1 day. The third, the person who was harmed, number 3, goes and finds 3 Eidim to go bring them all at one time so that he can get paid Nezek Shalom. So that's why the first group is connected to it. Does it make sense? Also, that even the first group came in order to make it a muad. You can't say we came to make him pay half, but not make him a muad. They all knew each other. The third Nizek brought all of them. What does he care about the first ones? Why the third Nizek? What does he care about the first two? Obviously, he brought the Eidim to make him into a muad. So that makes sense. Top of the page, but if you need to warn the owners, you need 3 days. For each goring needs to be warned on that day. It's impossible to make him a muad unless it's stretched out over 3 days. Just let the first one say, I didn't know anything that's going to happen in 2 days from now. they told us to Rav Kana. Rav Kana said, "Yudi Tura Minecha," and if it's for the oxen, it is good. Certainly, the first group, what are they doing here? They for sure had in mind to make him a muad, otherwise there's no reason for them to be here. They know that the third nizik is not bringing them to make the owner pay the first nizik. He's bringing it for himself. So they're coming to make him a muad. But the third group, that he anyway needs, right? The third group he needs just to testify that his ox was gored. They can say, "Oh, I didn't know the other ones are there. I was coming to help you get chatzi nezek." Lemru, let them say, "I'm not level Yudi Asinu. We didn't know the other groups are there. We're only responsible for half a nezek." They can say, "The third group. We didn't know there's others here." More answers the Ramzi Rimuzi. They were hinting. Now it would work if it's for the oxen. The first group is making signs to the third group to testify. Then the third one's for sure had in mind to make him a muad. That's what I heard Rashi says. Rashi says, yeah, it would work. And he says, they all came together. Now, certainly, they knew each other. The last answer of Vidna says, they know the owner, they don't know the ox. Their intention was certainly only to make him a muad. They knew the first Eidish, Mishim Chatzi Nezek, even the Emakim is Ashur, for sure it wasn't, the first group wasn't coming to make him pay Chatzi Nezek. They didn't even know who the Shur is. Misadi, Misadi, they didn't come to testify. The Tam ain't Mishalam al Magufay. The Tam only pays for the body itself, you have to know which ox it is. If the warning is for the person, it won't work. Because the first group can say, how are we supposed to know that after 3 days other people are coming? We only came for half, and we would not be able to make them pay the whole thing. We can't give the same answer. Oh, they didn't know the ox. How can you say that the first group who doesn't know the ox, the only reason they're coming is to make this ox a muad? As if they were Nevi'im to know that the ox is going to gore a second or third time. So the whole reason they're coming is to make him a muad. After it happens 3 times, you can say, I'm bringing the first group to make him a muad. But the first group can't know that it's going to happen second, third time. Ask the question. He sends, in English, he sends the dog. He sends the dog. He sends, as Rashi says, Levi sends Reuven's dog to bite Shimon. Mahu. What's the deal? Who has to pay? Mishase Vadei Potter. The guy who rates on, for sure it's Potter, he's just grandma. He didn't do it, he caused it. Grandma, and therefore you be butter. Baal Kelevai. What about the owner of the dog? Yeah, you're responsible. Your animal causes nezek, you gotta pay. But here, this person rates on my dog. Could he say, do we say, Matzi Amarle, he can tell him, no, what did I do? Or he did more, perhaps Amarle, we tell him, what do you mean, what did you do? Since you know your animals, you know your dog. The mishasi, that if someone pushes it to bite, it's gonna go bite. You shouldn't have kept it. That's the question. Do we hold them responsible or not? Yeah, whatever. We'll keep it around. Kill it for us. Get it back. Keep it. Amar Abzeda. So Abzeda tries to bring a raya. Toshma. Listen to this. It says in the Mishnah of Tam, How does an animal become a tam? Listen closely. The children can play with it, can touch it and play with it, and it doesn't gore. That's a raya that it's a tam. So now the Gemara wants to learn out from here, if it would go ahead and gore, chayiv, the owner would be chayiv. Even though this is a case of being raised on. The king excited it. It went and gored. That's what he says. When does it become a tam? If the children play with it and it doesn't do it. Meaning, but if it does, it's going to be chayiv. So Rabbi says, no. Where are you making that assumption? Niktani noga chayiv. Does it say, but if it gores, you're chayiv? Dilma, all it's telling maybe, ha nogach lo yav a tam. If it gores, then it's not a tam anymore. What makes it a tam when the children play with it and nothing happens? But if the children play with it and something happens, it's not a tam. Chayiv? We're not talking about chayiv. Anyway, it's not chayiv. There's no raya from here that you're chayiv. You understand? We wanted to learn a raya that you're chayiv. Because it says, when does it become a tam? If the children play with it and it doesn't gore, implying, but if it does gore, you're chayiv. He said, no. But if it does gore, you're not a tam. Chayiv, we're not talking about, because you're never going to be chayiv anyway. What you wanted to learn out from the diuk is wrong. The Mishnah is not talking about chayiv or patur, it's talking about tam or not. So if the animal, the children play with it, and it doesn't gore, it's a tam. If it does gore, it's not a tam. Chayiv, we're not talking about chayiv anyway.
It doesn't gore. The person is not
If it doesn't gore, even though the children are playing with it, is a raya, then it's not a muad anymore, it's a tam.
If it does work.
No, it still stays a muad. But you wouldn't be chayiv, because it didn't go gore on its own. The children made it gore. So there's no raya. Tries to bring another raya. Toshma, come and listen. It says like this: Shisa boy es akela. You sent the dog to bite someone. Shisa boy nachash or a snake. Hello, Mendel. Pater. My love, who's Pater? Pater Meshasa, the guy who sends it is Pater. Chayiv al kela, but the owner's chayiv. Right? So Pater, the sender. No, he says, look, why are you saying that? And he must say Pater Meshasa. Not the sender's Pater, even the sender's Pater. The owner's for sure Pater. There's no raya from here. Amarava. So we don't know what will be the din. If you send your friend's dog to bite your other friend, Rabbi says, if you're gonna say, we have this question, but let's say, let's say if you send your friend's dog to bite someone else, and let's say then he is chayv. No, the owner of the dog. The one who sent it is chayv. Shisohu ba'atzmoi. What happens if? No, I guess the owner. The owner would have to be chayv. We said before he's zichar pater. It's grommet in the zaki. So if that was the question, right? If he should be chayiv or not, because it's his dog. So even if you're going to say that he would be chayiv, she's so hu ba'atzmai. What happens if Levi sends the dog to bite Shimon, the dog bites Levi? There for sure, pater. No one will be pater. My time, know what's the reason? Because the rule is kol ha-meshanya. Anyone who does something different. Uba acher v'shina boy. And then someone else comes and makes another difference. So therefore, he's pater. So here also, he went and he wanted to send someone else, and the dog came and bit him. So teshinoi, so the owner wouldn't be chayiv. Amar HaPapa Rava. So the Papa said to Rava, we learn like Rish Lakish, your din of Shina, if you change, and someone else comes and changes it, it would be Pater. Rish Lakish says that. Why? Rish Lakish says, Shtei part of Rishus Rabbi, you have two cows that meet in Rishus Rabbi. Achas Revutza, Achas Ma'aleches. One's lying down and one's walking. But the Malechus Revutza, one's lying down in the middle of Rishus Rabbi, and the walking one comes and kicks the one that's lying down. Petura, the one that kicks is Pater. Revutza b'Ma'aleches, if the one lying down kicks the walking one, Hayavis it's Chayiv. So what's the din? What do you want to say? It's the same thing. Because he wants to say like this. The guy who sat down in the middle is a shinoi. It's strange. Then the other one comes and kicks him to do something different. So therefore he's Pater. Call him Mishaneh. V'acha v'shinoi is Pater. Amalei. So this is a raya to you. So he said back to him, Ano, that's not right. In that case, I would make the owner of the ox that's walking pay. The umbrella, because I say to it, you have permission to walk over me, because I'm in the middle of Rishus Rabbi. To kick me, less lach Rishus, you don't have permission. So even though it's a shinoi that the guy's laying down in the middle of Rishus Rabbi, I still would have made him chayiv there. It's not a raya for my case here. We just have a few Rashis to finish up. Kalbish Chaveri Bechaveri Levi Hamshase Kelev Ruven Shimon. Levi who sends Ruven's dog to go bite Shimon. Vaday Potter. For sure he's Potter. The Grama bin Izakim. She's only causing. The sender's for sure Potter. Question is the owner. If the ox gores another ox because the children were playing with it, it's even though it was sent. No, it's not about paying. It said even though he's still a tam. If it gores, it's not a tam. You're not chayiv for it. It says didn't gore to make it a tam, but if it gores, it's not a tam. The dog bit the person who tried to send it. The owner of the dog is Potter. If the walking cow kicked the lying down one, he's Potter. He shouldn't have sat down in the Rishus Rabbi. And anyone who does something strange, someone else comes in, does something strange to him. The guy who does something strange is Potter.